a grand win or fun and tough. If I could choose between my immediate horrible death and world peace, I would choose world peace. And I invite an immediate horrible death, provided world peace falls off the back of it. If I can't be certain, then I'll resist the horrible death. So I've got a model for world peace, and this is how it works. If you employed me as a consultant to come in and build a model for world peace, I would do this. I would install 600 Zoom meeting chairs above the UN Council, and I would ask the whole world to give me the 600 smartest people to fill those chairs immediately. As a temporary position, that we've got really good people there, that everyone in the geopolitical zones around the world can see representation for themselves in those chairs. That's all that matters, and that they're clever. And then I'm holding the centre, representing the sovereign head of the planet while I build the model, and then I step away. That's the idea, okay? So I'm holding the centre, the 600 chairs. All decisions are made by me, the single sovereign head of the planet. But of course, with the agreement now, if it's going to be 1 against 600, I've got to really be sure of my rhetoric skills to be able to hold that centre. However, if someone comes at me and says, yes, but E equals MC squared, I can hold the centre. Yeah, I'll hold the centre over that argument against 600 people, no problem. So I'm confident of being able to adopt that centre temporarily. The instruction, so I'm commanding the UN. Immediate instruction goes down to ground level for every people just to arrange themselves into the geopolitical regions that are appropriate. And in Great Britain, for example, I identify Great Britain as a geopolitical zone, all of the British Isles as a geopolitical zone, and I've established sovereign heads. The model is sovereign heads. And so in Wales, for example, I'm holding the centre in Wales too. This is the beauty of the Zoom model. I can hold the centre of all Zoom models, and just me as the consultant, okay, setting the model up. I can hold the centre of every single Zoom model in the world by having my own set up in my where I'm based, so I can then control the centre of all, and I can hear arguments, and provided that they are being filtered through the right system, they'll always come through the 600 chairs. I can manage everything, and if an individual needs to speak to me, of course, they can just reach up for me through the comms that we've established. So at the ground level, you establish your geopolitical region, and you set up a 600 chairs. And the size of the chairs or the size of the region will determine how many chairs you think are appropriate. You decide. And it may be that you have entirely single tribal boundary. That may be possible. Or you may end up with a shared geopolitical region. The Kurds and the Palestinians, particularly, I will be focusing on, because if we can make sure that they are correctly represented as people of valor, people of peace, valor, and honor, they must be represented in the 600 chairs and feel that they are appropriately represented, and that the beautiful people in Kurdistan, a single region, Kurdistan, may be in another geopolitical region. Okay, but the Kurds may decide not and build your own 600 inside that geopolitical region. For now, it doesn't matter. Everyone must just be comfortable with their own local arrangement at council level, with a Zoom model, maybe 20 people, Zoom model chair in your village, for example, may be appropriate. Or you might want a town where you've got 150 running a city. Always with me in the centre, representing the position of the sovereign head once the model is set up. Okay, and that once the top and the bottom are set, I then dismantle the entire system of the planet from the UN down, maintaining communication lines. All I'm interested in is comms lines from top to bottom, so that the bottom, a village of 20 chairs, can reach to the top very easily through 1 or 2 steps. If people feel that in the interim they want to build, put more chairs in order to make sure that there's proper representation at familial or tribal level, if you like, then that's fine. It doesn't matter. You decide. So what we'll end up with is what looks like the 600 chairs with a centre. Below it, just chairs into all political regions, always holding the same centre right to the very bottom. Yeah. So then we've got a model of talking, and we've dismantled the organism of power. So we have the power, but we've still got all the power. It's still there. We haven't broken anything yet. We're just going to move all this committee nonsense from everything and make sure that the power and the control is from the centre all the way down to the bottom. And I'll then, once that's set up and working, you go back from the top, and I work down dealing with each individual geopolitical region and re-establishing the chair model, simplifying as much as possible, with just the pure aim of making sure that every single person feels represented locally and represented in the 600 chairs. And that, bearing in mind, anyone who holds a chair in the 600 represents the planet, not their country. Not their country. And if they're found guilty of favouring their own country, they are dead. Literally dead. Their careers, everything will be over. They'll be completely ostracised and they're gone. Okay? It's really, really important that the 600 are seen as global champions of peace, love, and nature. Because that's the planet we're going to build. So we've got our model at the top, we've got a model at the bottom, and I'm slowly working through setting out working through the difficult regions. Ireland is fixed. Northern Ireland's fixed in Great Britain. I fixed it in a heartbeat by establishing the United Ireland, but ensuring that the blood brotherhood between myself and the Ulstermen will never be broken, and it won't. We will always be the same country as Northern Ireland. And therefore, we're the same country as Ireland now, and that the men of Ulster can enter the Dublin Parliament as men of peace and honour, and build that country into the world of wonder. And then I can look over the Irish Sea and go, that's my country. I'm going there now. This idea, I know I can go there anyway, but this idea that it's a foreign country caused by the division when they partitioned Ireland with a fake border. Fake borders cause wars, you fucking morons. They're fake. Yeah? And you only have to look at Ukraine to see the damage a fake border does. And you only need to look at Africa to see how much effort it requires to sustain fake borders, where you see tribal and familial splits across fake boundaries established by the British, the French, the Dutch, the Portuguese. They're fake borders. So we're going to remove them all and re-establish the proper ones that you decide what they are based on geography and makeup of the people in that region. And it could be huge or it could be tiny. You just set the model up to suit the resources that you're controlling, and less is more, because the less people are involved in the committee setup, right, the smoother it will work. The most important thing is that every single individual on the planet has total trust in the centre that the sovereign head of the planet is the person who looks at the sovereign head. And so whichever person holds that role is just a person in the same way as any old pleb on the planet. But his royal personhood, or her royal personhood, because I will be insisting it's a woman from now on. Once the model is set up, there are to be no male leaders of the planet, only females. Because a society set up to accommodate the essential and special needs of the female chassis means that men have to know and understand the female chassis and the needs it has, recognise that it's their gift to our women that we love and cherish is to put them first, because their bodies are more precious than yours. They are more special than yours. They go through a metamorphosis. When the cycle begins as a young girl, the body prepares itself for birth, which is an option. If a mother prepares for birth and goes through the birth process, her body goes through most incredible changes. And for us to just stand back and go, oh, look, she's pregnant, it's just appalling. It appalls me. Those women should be home, not working. They're pregnant. How the fuck are they going to bring up a decent child and raise a decent society if they're fucking working, you morons? I'm sorry. You can see how easily I get angry, and you're not morons, you're lovely. It's just no one's pointed this out to you. So, a society of females, heads, right through the centres at every single level, a female. And so I'm gone. So I'll be the last of the narcissists, the last of the patriarchy. Will be the consultant that you've employed to build the model, to build world peace. No army, no police, no weapons. Now, I think we can afford a universal basic income. It's a birthright. Any human being on the planet receives an income from the moment of their birth, from the set up by the 600 centres, controlled at the local. Home. It's absolutely guaranteed. Everyone will have a gaff, a place to put their head down that's theirs, absolutely safe, but it'll be not much. It'll be a gaff. I'm thinking it'll be like a small room in a large building. Imagine the old lunatic asylums that we had, these fantastic buildings, and we knocked them all down. And I'll give you the Royal Victoria County Hospital in Hampshire as an example. That they tell us that was built for a hospital for the First World War. A field hospital was built like that. Yeah, right. So those sort of buildings, they will be the gaffs that you'll live in, and they're your home. So if you ever want to go home, there's your gaff. There it is for you. And there'll be like an Airbnb system, so you can just bail out of your gaff, and someone else will be using it. You've got no idea who, but because they'll be behaving excellently, if there's been 50 people through your gaff, when you get home, you'll remember it, and it'll be better because there might be stuff people left behind, a guitar or some magazines, all tidy, but they'll be new and different, but it'll be lovely, guaranteed, because you've been doing the same. You've been staying in someone else's gaff, so you look after it like it's yours, and all the resources made available for you. So we've got a model, we've got a birthright of income, and we've got the safety of a home. And that's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've set the base. You've set your base. What else do you need? You need to eat. Okay, I'll go and sort that out. Yeah, that's our next move, isn't it, now, to look at food production and how we can make sure that everyone gets fed what they need. And so that the wheat, for example, from Ukraine belongs to the world. It doesn't belong to Ukraine, doesn't belong to Europe, doesn't belong to the highest bidder. It belongs to the world. And we will just organise our supply chains to make sure that we keep our carbon footprint down. We're not shipping fucking dog balls from China to be lost in the fields of Wales, right? Endlessly. We'll sort something out. Yeah, we'll make the dog balls in Wales, and we'll put a little tracker in them so that I can always find them. Yeah, and a simple move like that would save the waste of making stuff and shipping it all around, and stop me getting annoyed about losing dog balls. But taking that model, I don't want to waste the ball. I just want to buy 2 balls and keep them forever until they're destroyed, and then I want to chuck them in the recycling, knowing that they're going to go and be reused properly, because the product they're made from is a single type of rubber. All balls are made from this single type of rubber, so that all this type of rubber goes in that type of bin, and that when you come to recycle it, you just tip it all into the melting pot, melt it all down, and it's another product again. Because plastic becomes precious, we don't have to make any more. We just spend the rest of our time hoovering up all the plastic and the microplastic we've got around the planet, because it's poisoning us and poisoning everything else. So there you go, plastic resolved, or at least not resolved, but a method in front of us to do it. And once the lie is lifted from us at last, as we excise, and we re-established the reference tables in the law, linking through to Dr. V. Levy's work in shell theory, that we can find, engineers can finally have the link into reality, into science that I built from my works into science, and engineers can then run the world instead of physics, and physics becomes a department of the quantum imagineers. And when I've retired, I'm going to go and work in the Institute of Civil Science, science spelled with a P and a Y, and that will be my discipline, civil science. It's a way of establishing that when people talk about science, they're no longer talking about science with an S, it's science with a PSY, because it involves psychology, very much so. So it's the engineering of psychology linking through into shell theory, and we take all that stuff off of physics and we see what they've actually got, and we see what we can use. And I think CERN's an engine, and I think I know how to use it. I've certainly got ideas about how we can use it in reverse to help us get the planet up to the right speed. And gravity to return to normal, and climate change is over, and we can have a life of joy, because the next phase is the game. So once the model's established and world peace is established and everyone knows what they're doing and knows that we're working towards a 15-hour self-policed working week, make sure you've done what you need to do to help the planet as a caretaker. Your meaning of life is that you are a caretaker, and that means you are a taker of care. Of what? Of everything. Simple. And so once that's established, then the game sets up. So we set up in the UK, in Great Britain. Fucking hell, mistake. In Great Britain, education will be free throughout life. If you want to learn something, you go to school and you book what you want. You meet people, you book experts to come and visit you, to talk to you, you question the expert, you get them to answer your questions, and you do not let them blindside you and bullshit you. You just want your questions answered. Don't you let them look at the coercive control techniques, and you'll get the lesson. Kids go to school early doors when they're little. When the parent feels that it's appropriate for that child to start their sexual consent education, that begins, because you've got to start it early. You're looking at the energy cycle and the nest building of old people. One, you've got to establish that into young people really fast, so they understand and are not frightened about who they are. It's the first moment of awareness when a baby becomes a toddler and becomes aware of itself. That's the moment that a parent steps in, using the training guidance that's all available, and training modules and all the information you need online to help the parent yourself. Once the parent feels that that child is ready to step into the parent decides when that child is ready. And it's not about sex lessons. It's not about thrusting and pumping and penises and vaginas. It's about understanding consent and abuse, and learning how to love each other as children and respecting each other, so they understand that section. So they understand sexual consent and the energy cycle at 5 years old. And music, of course. They'll be doing music lessons, but that goes without saying. That's available throughout life. So after that, critical thinking skills. So as soon as the child is deemed by the school to be capable of taking in critical thinking skills, that begins. And it's all about learning how to learn, not frightened of being wrong, but recognizing that if you make a move in something and you can't justify it, you have to go back and check your assumptions and look at your evidence and check for confirmation bias and check for references. Make no move forward in your education until you're certain that the assumption that has been made, either by you or by someone else, is reasonable, and that the next step you made, either you have removed the assumption again or you carry that assumption through. If you're carrying the assumption through, you just need to know that it's there. So that if you get to a point where something doesn't make sense, you look at the assumption and you go, it's the assumption now. I've got this far, simplifying everything. Now I need to put the complexity back, so I'll remove the assumption, and now I can understand the complexity because I've built the understanding and the wisdom and the knowledge through this careful cementing of step-by-step motion through education. As soon as they've learned that, school's over. Apart from if they want to stay. And what I can see young people doing is using the social media etiquette with their stories that they've built from children. And I'd be encouraging, at any age at all, give them a phone, and don't be frightened, because it's a tool. So we're going to critical thinking skills. You're teaching them the tool. The gift of the phone is the gift of a friend, and it should be a special occasion for young people. You don't just give them a phone. Okay, it's a special occasion that they understand the entire etiquette behind how they use the phone, and make sure that they control it. It doesn't control them. That's it. Once they pass that understanding, and it's very simple, easy to do, tool, they can have a phone, and then they can start doing their stories, building up their own morality tales, recognizing that everything they do in their life they can talk about if they want to, and it's good to. You'll learn that as you go. And so let's say by the time 10 years has gone by, their backstory is huge in these little video diaries they've built up. Everyone with a headline and a clickbait attached to it. And you just do that, right? So that it fits into God's reality model, the one that I built for the AI morality. If you look at my video for that, slightly stepping outside what I was trying to do here in terms of just laying out a plan for world peace, but know that it's there, because it's part of the same piece, because I would expect in the 600 chairs to be having input into the AI morality model that I've built as well. So we can then use the AI, teach children how to use it. So at 5 years old, they understand sexual consent. They understand the energy cycle and why it's important to build bonds with older people and not to be frightened of it, and to embrace it and welcome it. And older people understand what they're doing, building a nest in the young people for the egg of their information. So that when they die, their energy goes pure, because they've left behind all the nonsense, because everything they knew, they transmitted to somebody they loved with love. And if you transmit any information with love, when you go, it is retained. It goes to, that information goes to the person that you've given it to. And if you've built up a relationship with 1,000 people, it'll go to all of those 1,000 people. That information will come to them, because nobody teaches them that. They don't understand what's happening there. Oh my God, I'm schizophrenic. Oh, there's a voice in my head. No, it's the gift of humanity. So 5 years old, understands energy cycle, understands sexual consent, understands social media etiquette, passes the test, phone. Critical thinking skills, using the phone as their video diary, building up their knowledge so they can go back and check, wow, I learned a lot. Look at me back when I was 5. I'm lovely. Yeah. By the time I get to 15, let's say they've passed their critical thinking. It's quite late, it'd be much sooner than that. But they've been going to school. School looks like this. You just go to the common room, and you chat with your friends and you go, oh, what were we doing yesterday? Oh, we were looking at that problem that we were talking about, building the whatever. Yeah, problem. All right, yeah, we need some information from this book. We've found this information in the book, referencing right back to 3 steps. How can we reach for someone who can explain these 3 steps back references that are a bit broken for us? We don't understand them. Can we pull in someone to explain the source of this information we're looking at? Pull them in. They justify the assumptions that were made in the original. You don't have to understand them. You just have to go, oh, right, that's reasonable. Yep, okay, so this we can take this simplification on trust, knowing we're carrying the assumption through, and we can now work on this project that we're working on and come up with some sensible answers, because we're not lying about anything accidentally, because nobody's lied to us. Yep. So that's school, and of course those groups of people could be a 12-year-old girl and a 50-year-old bloke in those groups. And so it's absolutely vital, yeah, because you can go to school anytime you want and you'll be interested in the same thing they are, so that age is irrelevant. So it's vital that we remove any sniff of paedophilia from our society. And we'll do so back at the early stage when we teach kids about sexual consent. Now, no, you can't abuse people. I could teach the coercive control techniques, gaslighting as you call it, will all be taught to children how to do it. And as a role model, games where you get one child to gaslight another one, using the techniques and the scripts that I've all got from that you guys spit out all the time when you try and argue with me. You just say the same things, you don't notice it. So we just use all these scripts for the kids, and they can have a role play, and then they can see how it feels to be gaslighted in a safe environment. And they'll learn all the techniques because they've been used on them, and they know it feels like this. If they were in a group, for example, with they were 12 and there was a 50-year-old bloke in there, they could speak to him. Oh, this is a potential energy cycle contact. If we bond closely, I may get all his. He may build the nest in me really well, and that his eggs of information when he dies will be laid in me, and I'll be And so they'll see that as a lovely thing. And if then let's put it like this. This is my measure of excellence around the planet in terms of paedophilia. If you see a grown man holding the hand of a small boy, you think it's wonderful, and that no thought of anything else would ever enter your mind. That's the planet of peace, and that's what I think I could build if you let me try. And I'm very expensive as a consultant. Yeah, really, really expensive. I know that the NHS is paying people £1,000 an hour or something to go masturbate in the toilets, but I'll cost nothing. I'm free. I won't charge you anything. I don't care. I don't want anything. I just want world peace, and to have a universal basic income, and to stay in my gaff that I've built, which is a bit nicer than perhaps other people's, but I think I've earned the right to stay there. And that's all I want. So, I know this has been a bit long, and there was a lot there, but I just want you to see that it's there on the table. I've left this on the table, and now you've got a binary choice. You can pick up my offer and examine it, or you can continue as you are. Choice. Yeah. Choice. Yours. So, love rules. Do the work. Think about it. Choose.